Welcome to Storm the Field, the Pipeline, presented by Tree City Sports, your source for local sports. What's going on, y'all? Welcome to Storm the Field, the Pipeline, presented by Tree City Sports, your source for local sports. The show where we take you inside the journey from high school Friday nights to college Saturdays and from the transfer portal to the next big opportunity. I'm your host, CJ McClure, and this is where we talk directly with the players on the rise, the recruits earning offers, the transfers looking for their next home, and the athletes grinding to reach the next level in football and basketball. Giving players a platform to share their journey, their mindset, and what it takes to move on to the next level. Whether you're a player, a parent, a coach, or a fan who loves following the future of the game, you're in the right place. Before we dive into today's episode, and before we introduce our special guest, this show is sponsored by Arrowhead Nutrition. Stop by there, get one of their wonderful Energy Teas nutritional shakes today. You'll want to make it a part of your morning routine the way that it is mine. So let's get it started. This is Storm the Field, the Pipeline, and Aidan Weston, you're up next. Joining us now on the pipeline is transfer tight end Aidan Weston. He checks in at 6'5", 238 pounds. Coming out of North Carolina Community College, and he's already turning heads in the transfer process with 6 offers, including offers from the Bethel Threshers and the Ottawa Braves from the KCAC. Aidan brings size, athleticism, and versatility to the tight end spot, and we're excited to dive into his journey, his recruitment, and what's next as he looks for the right home at the next level. What is going on, Aidan Weston? Welcome to the show. Great to have you on, bud. Why don't you go ahead and tell us a little about yourself?
I'm just a man who started playing football when I was 19. I was not in the best spot, if you will, but let's just say that playing football has turned my life around. I started with flag, bounced around a bunch of teams, played through injuries almost instantly, but I decided I wanted to play in college, so I ended up getting offers. I went to a post grad team, but they had a bankruptcy scandal, and so then I ended up going back home, playing some adult amateur league locally. Just wanted to play a couple years of college ball and then see where it goes from there. The percent of people that go pro is just a very small amount, so try and go pro if not start coaching, but just go as far as I can go and enjoy playing ball. It's really fun and it's pushed me to do new things with my body physically. So
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that gives whole new meaning to for the love of the game.
yes, sir.
And that's a great story you telling me that, it helped you turn your life around. Football does that for so many people. The comfort that people find in football and the friendships and camaraderie that we make along the way makes it even better.
No doubt about it. It's not all sunshine and rainbows, though, especially in these adult leagues. They're adult amateur leagues in the sense they won't mess with college eligibility, and there'll be players who out of college they'll players who get recruited for college football from it, but half of those players are really moving up to professional leagues, and you can be a professional and play in the league, and a lot of people were, and it's not really all sunshine and rainbows. So
Oh yeah, I could imagine a smaller organization it coming with its difficulties, but at least being able to play the game, giving you an opportunity is something that you can always hang your hat on and have something to look forward to.
no doubt about it. No doubt about it. And the recruiting process is very interesting. Uh, it really gave me a different perspective on how coaches scout, and it really is mostly about the physical tools. That's the unfortunate reality. I'm lucky that I have the prototypical size, the speed, and the strength, but it's really hard for recruits who don't have that, and there are a lot of people out there who get overlooked.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and also with the day and age that we live in of the transfer portal and all this, the high school kids aren't being recruited at the same level that they used to be. So these kids are having less and less opportunities, so they're having to go, different routes, kind of like you are. They're going to have to take the opportunities that they can get because they're just not being recruited the way they used to be.
That is correct. We're seeing kids who would have gone Division 1 who are now going Division 2 in NAIA. And if you're not like a high 3, 4, or 5 star recruit, the reality is that coaches won't even look your way. They're even kicking people who just finished their redshirt freshman seasons off the team. Like I think it was Kansas State that did that to some linebacker, I think, who just finished his redshirt year.
Yeah, yeah, that was one of those deals that we ended up having to let a couple of our players go to make room for some of the incoming transfers. We were trying to bring in a whole new system with Coach Klein and just the roster turnover. We knew it was going to look different, but like that, you hate to see that. You hate to see a guy basically being told that, hey, we're letting you go. But in the world that we live in now, these kids that are going Division 1, going to Big 12, SEC, and Big 10 schools are getting paid a lot of money. And luckily for most of our players that have transferred, they have found a home that will hopefully work out for them in the end.
Amen to that. But it's so much more competitive than people realize. Forever, there's just a lot of competition at all levels, and some coaches are really, really stupid in the way they scout. Like I know everyone wants game film, but I have a friend who's a receiver who played NAIA. He was like a late bloomer physically, extremely skinny kid. The guy's like 6'6", running a 4.40, and this Division 1 FBS program in the Group of Five conference didn't want him because he didn't have any game film. He's more physically talented than any of the receivers they have there. At some point, you've got to take a chance, and it's misses like that are setting programs back. So
Yeah, exactly. And, not being seen by the coaches, not having anything to show them is really hard for these kids to get these offers and stuff. And they are being overlooked for sure.
see, I don't really have tackle film like that, but I have game film, and it's 4 minutes. Even though I was injured in half of it, you can clearly see me actually playing a football game. Period. So it's actually been great. I only posted my film on December 16th, and I already got 6 offers. I also got a couple Division 1 FCS schools looking at me, and a few Division 2s. They've already reached out to them about putting in the transcripts, which is what they do ask you to do for those little questionnaires before they're going to actually talk to you further. So it's just been a very intense waiting game because although I'm a little past that, I like to consider myself group myself in with the high school recruits in terms of when I would be committing, like in March or so, maybe. And in the sense that they're going to recruit me more on my potential than anything else, even though I have an adult body now. So it's just kind of, it's how it is. They're basketball players, they're soccer players, and players from other sports who transition to football, wrestling too, and most of them do pretty well if they work hard to it. So I don't see why 7-on-7 football would be any different. I did play contact flag a little bit, but I had an injury during that time, and it was just like an hour and a half away, so I just had to go play somewhere locally, unfortunately. But I'm just a classic case of how bad luck and not knowing what you're doing can mess you up a little bit. But I only did start sending out my film to 4-year schools just like 6 weeks ago, and it's already starting to pick up well. I personally think I can play at any level, at a high level, with a few more months of prep. But ultimately, I'm going to go where I can afford to go and where I'm wanted because it's really about what's best for the individual.
Yeah, it is. It absolutely is. And like Ottawa University is a small school, and it's one of those deals that
Yeah,
they don't give out a lot of scholarships that, are fully paid.
they
But there
offered me a
was
partial, But it's
Yeah.
just the FAFSA has to cover most of it.
Mm.
When my friends
Yeah.
say that some NAIA schools give them a full scholarship, that really means the FAFSA knocked out half of it and the school knocked out the other half.
Yeah. Yep. And that's how that works. There was a kid that we had on our show last year that we had recruited, was really excited to be in Ottawa and stuff, and it just came down to money that, it was going to be a little more for him than what he was wanting to spend. And so we lost out on the opportunity to get him here to play football for us. But, it's things like that every little thing matters, especially to, these high school recruits that are coming up hoping just to get a chance somewhere
Oh, it's
to
not
do
fair at all.
something.
When I play against the high schoolers, it's like I'm picking on a little kid almost. It's not even fair. Some of them are fast and they're like really. When it comes to skill position, it doesn't matter so much. But when I get my hands on them, it's genuinely dangerous for this physical safety. I've seen a couple of kids right out of high school playing these adult leagues. They've made some nice plays, but overall, it has not gone pretty for them. And when you're a major Division I football coach, you can't afford to wait 2 years for a player to be game ready. When you have a bunch of, the average age of an NFL draft pick is 23.24 as of last year.
Hmm.
It's going to go up to 24 now. These colleges want 22, 21 to 25-year-old kids. They want the older kids. They can't waste a roster spot on someone who is younger. I think the new path is going to be we're going to have to open up like 50 new JUCOs across the country and then let the kids go play there. Uh, I think it'd be a cheaper alternative to NAIA, honestly, but yeah, I think that'd be ideal. That we're going to start to see kids go. We're going to see more JUCOs pop up and more kids go JUCO and post grad for a year or two, take some community college classes part time, and then they're going to transfer up. That's probably what's going to be for the most part. But if they can afford to, NAIA is a good option too. Division II is as well, but even that level, it's a lot more competitive than people would think. So the reality is that if you are a young kid these days, you really don't have much chance at all unless you play like an exceptional skill position or you've been taking steroids since you were 13. You know what I'm saying? That's just the reality of it, is that older kids are going to win, and it's just not fair. But that's how it is.
Yeah, absolutely. And it comes down to size, speed, experience too. These guys that have been playing football for a couple years longer, that couple years could make all the difference.
Trust me, I'm about 6'4.5". By round up to 6'5", I weigh about 238, and I do when I'm in prime condition, which is not now because I'm more than half the season. I do about 14 reps at 225 on the bench. We have number one receiver on our team is 6'4", and he legitimately has CFL tryouts coming out soon. I was able to run with him for a good 20 yards in practice when I was covering him. That's a Division I body right there. So pretty much every recruit you'd see like me is going to be a 3-star tight end at least. They're going to say this dude is like at least 10 Division I offers. My story is different because I don't have any tackle film aside from a few blurry plays that I had to shoot on a tripod, but when you have the physical tools, it is so much easier. The reality is that if you don't have exceptional speed when you're smaller than me, there's not much you can do. And if you can't match my physical strength, it's not going to end well for you, even with the grown men. And that's just the reality, is that size matters, speed matters, strength matters, and it's 70% about the physical tools because most of those players are the best players of football. And even then, there'll be players who don't like run the best 40 yard preferred positions, but they play really fast and they're agile and they have physical tools too, or they just at least have the size and skills to make it happen. And the reality is that any older kid who just has something to work with, it's anyone can be dangerous on that football field. That's just the reality is. And
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, just having that couple extra years of experience, being 22, 23 years old, being in your final year of college, I mean, that could make the biggest difference in the world when you're comparing yourself to 18 and 19-year-olds that are just coming out of high school. And especially the freshman season, they probably don't see the field very much anyway.
that is true. The thing about me is that I'm one of those people who's extremely talented, but I did everything the wrong way. And when I started out, I had a very high body fat percentage. when it comes to natural talent, I have just about uh, almost as much natural talent as you get. And you notice it's very noticeable when I'm in football shape. So when I'm a person, when I get into college strength and conditioning program, I'm probably going to be pushing 250 pounds and even stronger and faster than I am now. And that's just at that point, it's just a huge advantage. It allows me to come in, plug and play right away. When you see other tight ends who are coming in around 210 pounds, they might be mobile, they might be versatile, or they're either good at blocking or good at receiving, or whatever. The reality is that they still don't have what it physically takes to compete against college age kids. These college age tight ends are pushing 300 plus pounds on the bench. They're squatting twice their body weight. They are run. They are able to keep up with some of the skill position players. The reality is that you can't not physically compete against bigger, badder animals, and that's the unfortunate reality of it. Is that you also have to be very tough mentally to do it, because the reality is that there are also a lot of dirty players in football who they will if you get injured as a younger player and you have to take a year off because someone blew your knee out or something, that automatically almost screws your career right there. That there's just so much competition at certain levels. It doesn't matter where you go, D1, D2, NAIA, even D3. That the reality is that there are people out there who love the game, and other players are standing in their way of playing it, of getting on the field. So if you're a young player, you really don't have much of a chance these days if you're not able to get past your first couple years. There's also like the fact that a fourth of the recruits of any signing class will quit football within the first 3 years. Some of them will wash out, some of them will quit due to injuries, others will just lose passion for the game, and that opens up more spots too. There's like probably 50,000 kids across the country who'll commit to play college football. And within a couple of years, about a fourth of those won't even be playing anymore. That's just the reality is. Which just brings me to my next point is the academics are important too. Some of these recruits, y'all are not good enough to justify skipping classes and not taking your academics seriously either. And it also shows on the field because players who don't get good grades, they don't learn the playbook very well, and they also don't behave very well. If I have to nag a dude to study film, chances are that same dude, he's probably skipping class too, and he's going to become academically ineligible as well. So that's just the reality is that it's not always about how good you are at football. It's about it's a lot of recruiting is about marketing and do people even know you? Uh, a lot of it's about grades too, and about how you connect with people. There have been NFL general managers who will draft players just because they connected with them, and it fooled them into drafting them. Like I'm a Bills fan, and let's just say that our coach drafted a certain receiver who he never should have drafted because he made a funny golf joke, Keon Coleman. So that's just how it is. It's the same thing with recruiting too. A lot of it's about relationships. I've seen some amazing players out there that don't get recruited because they don't know how to talk to coaches. They don't come across as likable. They don't have good grades, and some of them are also have behavioral disorders, and a lot of them get lost in the process too. And you'll see a lot of them in these semi-pro leagues. Uh, these I've seen a handful of dudes that legitimately could be playing in the CFL or NFL if they managed their careers better, but they didn't. And it also takes, of course, a certain system to thrive in for most players, and a lot of it is luck too, with injuries, getting the right coaches, and all. So football, it's not always about how good you are. When it comes to recruiting, it's about how good other people think you are and other opportunities, and what opportunities are you able to obtain for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes the softest spoken, the quietest players end up being the biggest impact players. When you look at, well, we had a running back, not this last season, but the season before, and DJ Giddens for K-State. That man, that that dude didn't talk much, didn't show much emotion, but when he was on the field, he was absolutely electric and would light up any defense that he faced.
Yeah, sometimes the majority of the best players that I've seen don't really talk as much. They just do. I don't really like loudmouth pricks, if I'm honest with you. I don't need to talk to you about what I'm going to do to you. I'm just going to do it, and you're just going to have to deal with it. The reality is that it doesn't really put extra points on the scoreboard. I do think it's good for some players to trash talk a little bit. Like me, when I get into my zone of trash talking and I'm playing well, do not try and take me out of it. And it goes the same with any other player. Like if it doesn't matter whether you're playing a 7-on-7 game or a tackle game or whatever. If you're in your zone, a player's in their zone and they're trash talking, but they're playing hot, don't take them out of it. But ultimately, when you distract from the main goals or when you're starting fights and you're putting everyone else in danger, that becomes a problem. And the reality is that culture matters in football a lot. If I can't trust you to not start a fight on the field and get a stupid penalty and get yourself kicked out of the game, I don't want you on my team. There's a fine line between being aggressive and being stupid, and you see it in JUCO a lot too. If I'm going to be honest with you, there were several times I considered quitting football just because I didn't like a lot of the players that I would have to play with. And the reality is that it takes a certain type of person to play football. Even the nicer ones, they all have a little bit of then, and it's good for football, I guess, but it's not good for life. And the reality is that I think that the reality is that majority of football players that I've met, I really wouldn't say they're great people. I'm sorry, but I'm going to say it. They're not. The reality is that there are so many crazy, violent, aggressive people, but at certain levels, coaches will forgive that because they want to win. At other levels, if you're not an amazing player and you're a locker room cancer, they're not going to have you. Especially because the coaches don't get paid enough to put up with certain amounts of stress. But
Well,
the reality
we
is the
know
football
all
culture.
about locker room cancers at K State having this last season having one of our most electric players, someone we were super excited for, at the beginning of the season to see what he could do. And first game out in Dublin, Ireland, he goes to return the first punt of the season and muffs it and ends up losing the ball that leads to points for Iowa State. Well, after he comes over to the sideline, he proceeds to kick the bench, break his foot, and then not only could he have come back, he had the opportunity to rejoin the team after it was healed and to be a big part of our offense. He just quit on our team. And I will say one thing right here on the record. There is greater joy that K-State fans could feel than to see Dylan Edwards sign with KU. Y'all deserve him. Y'all get him. Enjoy it.
I wish I could talk to you more about football there, but I'm not exactly from Kansas. We do things differently in the Carolinas here. So, but oh, speaking of K State, I have on my other account, which I used to have a bigger account that I used for football recruiting that I switched to my personal. I've talked to Kansas State tight end Lincoln Kier on it several times. I
Yep.
think he's going to be the gem of the decade for y'all. He's an amazing player, and I think he looks like a future NFL player. But he's also a quiet, humble guy, and I
He
think
is
that
a
take a step.
fantastic young man.
Oh yeah, that's the guy. That's the type of guy that he's going to be the cornerstone of your program for the next few years. Guys like him that are superstar playmakers that have a good head on their shoulders that they don't come by very often these days. Half of the players I see with his talent, they're running around taking a million recruiting visits to schools they don't even have intention of committing to, just to drive up the price or just to travel for free and explore the country on another program's dime while wasting everyone's time. They make a million graphics, and then half of them proceed to show up on the field and play like utter donkeys. And they wonder why these teams eventually grow tired of them, or why once their eligibility is gone, they're no longer able to play football. And you see it across all levels. There are so many talented players who ruin their own careers, and it's an absolute tragedy. When I was talking to this one post grad coach, he said that there was a certain tight end. He was like 6'5", 220. He ran like a 4.5 or something. and that what this powerful program wanted him until they found out that he was academically ineligible, and that he was also such a head case that even this program, which is used to dealing with head cases, didn't want him, because if they can't trust you to look over the playbook, if they can't trust you to show up to class without having to be nagged, then there's nothing further to discuss when it comes to playing football for you. If you're not willing to do the bare minimum, then these programs don't want anything to do with you. So that's just the
Yeah,
reality.
exactly.
It's really sad because I've seen probably 5 players who would be in the NFL right now if they weren't so stupid when it comes to their career decisions. It's an absolute tragedy, but that's just how it is. A lot of the the saddest thing about football is that there are so many potential all-time greats who never became because of either themselves or they just never got the right coaches to believe in themselves. Hell, somewhere out there is someone with the genetics to be one of the world's greatest athletes who's sitting around playing video games all day. So the reality is, when it comes to the NFL, those are mostly the best players. But you would be surprised how many dudes out there could be playing in the NFL or the CFL or XFL or whatever, one of the big 3 professional leagues, if they would just get out of their own way. And it's doing the little things right. It may seem insignificant, but you'd be surprised how many people don't do that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's one great thing about K-State, and not
Yeah.
only K-State, it's wonderful about the Ottawa Braves too. We are not just building teams for right now. We are building teams for the future. If you look at the transfers that are coming in from K-State, we're getting guys that have 2 or 3 years of eligibility left. We're not just looking for 1 year rent players. We're looking to build a culture with a team.
Amen. That's amazing. But for NAI schools, I think that with the amount of players they're transferring up, well, I think NAI players should encourage their players to ball out and then transfer up somewhere on scholarship and then shout them out. It'd be great for their program and say, "Yeah, I coach this man. Now see where he is," and then it'd be an amazing thing. When it comes to Power Four programs, of course, they're always trying to retain for the future. But other levels, I think we need to embrace trying to get players in to transfer up to higher levels and just to then build that program's prestige. But ultimately, if you're able to afford it, go play football at somewhere that you would like it. Like I have a bunch of NAIA offers, and Ottawa's one of them. Their facilities are very nice, and so on. But ultimately, it's about what's the best fit for you. I've talked to these different coaches, but I don't know them. I don't know which ones are genuine and which ones aren't. Which ones have the biggest plans for me, and which ones are just trying to fill out their roster.
Hmm.
It's very hard these days because even though there's a lot of competition, when it comes to schools that only offer partial scholarships, some of these schools will just offer people just because they need to fill their quota and because they know that a lot of their top targets won't be able to come there. So that's just how it is. You never know. But Coach Davis, I heard he's one of a kind at Ottawa. Players have said good things about him. Uh, and there are tons of other good schools there too, like Colville Stockton, Central Methodist, Bethel. NAI football in Kansas, just like JUCO football, is absolutely crazy. And some of the most caring coaches are over there too. Something about growing up in the South has maybe noticed that something about culture may be lacking, and that from what I've seen, people in the Midwest are just a little bit nicer. So I think that when you have a coach who's about you can trust as a person, that opens up a lot of doors as to hitting your stride there. So
Yeah, absolutely. Ottawa, the Braves are in my backyard. It's where I grew up, where I live, you
you
know.
go there all the games.
Yes, I do. Love being on the sidelines with these guys, being able to connect with them. One of the greatest things in the entire world. You will not find a better, more genuine coaching staff than you will with Coach Nick Davis and Coach Anderson and all of the great coaches. We even got Coach Johnson on the offensive line, who was a player for us a couple of years ago, and he was on our show for an interview. And that's one of the coolest things, to be able to see one of your best players turn into a great coach to lead the future of your program.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. I also like the tight end coach Engman too. I like younger coaches just as a general
Yep.
rule. If I'm being honest with you, most football coaches over the age of 45 are complete runs. I will say this, and I don't care who gets offended by it. They would run their players until their fascious muscle fibers were cooked and everything in their body pulled. They would ruin careers by making them play through awful injuries. They would use pretty much the same plays with only a flipped field or different snap counts. And the passing game really lacked creativity. Physicality then it was awesome to see physicality, but it was just basically legalized cheating then. And it doesn't really translate as well to the modern game. If I'm honest with you, I'm not a fan of old school football coaches, which is one of the things I liked about Ottawa is that a lot of the assistant coaches are like younger there, and they're more in tune with the modern game.
Yeah, definitely for sure on that.
And Ottawa does have a couple coaches that I think are going to become household names within the next decade or so once they move up the ranks. Some of the best coaches I've ever seen started at NAIAs and D3s or D2s, and they didn't start off right away getting a student assistant job after they played at a Power 4 school because they had to scout talent at all levels and develop them. And not to mention that it takes a certain type of person to work at those levels, someone who genuinely loves the sport too. And so those are the types of coaches who they can really develop you a lot as a player.
Yeah, absolutely. And having the role coaches, the position coaches that genuinely care about their players and not only their development on the field, but their development and character and off the field as a human being is exactly what you want to see.
The reality is that only a couple of players on each of the teams at most levels are going to go pro. Some will go arena, some will go CFL. Very few will go NFL and make enough to live the rest of their life off of. So the reality is that what's most important is that you enjoy playing football and you go somewhere where you become a better man as a result of it. What we can't have is a lot of the players who go like JUCO or who go to schools just because they're on scholarship, but they end up burning out, becoming miserable, ruining their body with injuries, and they never really learn anything from it. If you get to play, if you use a good ball and you enjoyed your time there, you got a good education, you're able to get a good job, and use lessons that you've learned from football, then I think things are going to turn out very positively
Oh
for
yeah,
most people
absolutely.
if they go the football route. It's hard no matter what level, but ultimately, if you love the sport, that's something you got to do. Nobody wants to lift, nobody wants to practice, but if you want to do the sport you love, you got to do that and show the game the respect by putting a certain amount of work into it.
Yeah, absolutely. You always have to put in the work to see the results.
Yeah, it's one of the hardest sports ever. Just the physical demands alone are exhausting. And then, of course, the repetition that you need and the film watching to really round it out. And then the mental preparations and then the diet consistency. It's one of the hardest sports on planet Earth. You can't. The only sport that I can think of that might be harder would be wrestling, probably. So the reality is that football is something you can only do if you really love it. And I think we're going to find in the next few years that a lot of these players don't love the game as much as they say they do.
Yeah, exactly. And well, especially the fact that, there are so many transfers from one year to the next, it is going to be very easy for these kids to just lose the love of the game that
If they're okay,
they
if they're
had.
transferring, these kids need to chill out. All right, if you're being forced in the portal, is one thing, but these players have no chill whatsoever. Transferring year everywhere is not going to make you better. If the staff sucks there, that or you're going somewhere on scholarship versus having to pay somewhere, then be my guest and transfer. But don't transfer unnecessarily if you don't need to. All right, especially not if you're one of those players who gets the luxury of being able to play at an affordable college in your own home state. The amount of players I see that are ungrateful for the opportunities they have is unbelievable.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
there's a dozen other kids out there with their positions that could do their job just as well as for them, who would appreciate the opportunity more. The reality is that playing football at any level, being able to afford that is a blessing. Personally, me, I would go to a D1 and ball the help. I don't care where I have to go play D1, D2, NAIA, D3. I'm going to go where I want to go, and I'm going to go have fun doing it. And that's just the reality, is that I'm grateful for opportunities. And as someone who has to record their own games, doesn't have huddle, and as somebody who has had the worst luck of any athlete probably on planet Earth. There are not many who would have kept going in my circumstances, so I'm going to tell you that.
Yeah.
A lot of these kids don't love the game the way they say they do. If they had to have seasons getting canceled due to bankruptcy issues with the
Oh
team
yeah.
or scandals, if they had to play through brutal injuries while everyone was mocking them because of how they played for it and then never apologizing when they got healthy and ended up balling out, if they're going to try and talk trash every single time I get an offer, ultimately, other people can say what they want, but I, as a player, I know my strength, I know my weaknesses, and I know that I can go bang for bang with the best. But ultimately, whether I get properly recruited or not is another thing. But all I'm going to say is that anyone who passes on me, I'm going to mess your defense up, and I'm going to put my shoulder pad through your best linebacker's windpipe, and then he's going to be getting carted off the field because I love this game, and I want to get to play it as much as possible. And in order to do that, you have to put up a certain level of performance. The reality is that there's nothing scarier in sports than a hungry underdog, especially a talented underdog who just plays his heart out every time he steps on the field. And ultimately, while I know what the odds are, I just do this because I love it. And I just want to play a couple years of college ball, have some fun, go as far as I can go. And I feel like if more people had my mentality, that things would be a lot better for them and across college football as a whole. If I'm honest with you, I really think college football is a dying sport, not in the financial sense, because it'll always be financially extremely lucrative, but in the sense that it's not going to be what it once was. I am seeing players more focused on who seem to enjoy the recruiting process more than the actual game. I've seen a million bad football scouts who are ruining the game as well by putting out poor products on the football field with recruiting the wrong players. I see players who are getting arrested off the field, and not trying to but me with my recruiting. Ever since I started getting a little bit louder and more brash on social media, I get more followers and offers than ever before. The reality is that football is becoming a dog eat dog world, where it's you're spending more time getting recruited than actually playing ball, and where you have to have really thick skin just to survive and to keep playing it. Ultimately, as I've gone through this process, I will never look at football the same way again. When you realize just what goes into putting a team together at all levels, and just how hard it is to manage a locker room, it's almost make me had second thoughts on maybe after I'm done playing, I don't want to coach. Maybe I'm just gonna do something with my degree and work a nice corporate job or something. You know.
Oh yeah, definitely. And the what you do in your future, is also impacted by how much success you have on the field too, because if you are able to play and able to enjoy your time on the field, you're more likely to go into coaching or into another role related to a team.
Amen to that. And you have to play something to actually be able to coach one day. So the reality is that I've watched football since I was a little kid. I've known the rules of football as long as most of my younger teammates have been alive. But the reality is that actually playing the past couple of years and only starting pads the last year has it's really changed my perspective on so much. And once you realize that, it makes you a much better coach because then you're actually qualified to teach someone else how to play a game for the first time, or whether it's teaching a college kid how to elevate his game to the next level. If you don't do something yourself for a few years, you're not going to know how to coach that to other people. You're going to have a short career and you're going to end up burning out. That's just the reality. I've seen a handful of coaches at Division 1, Division 2 schools who didn't even really play football. They just volunteered and worked their way up. And most of them absolutely suck as scouts, and I would not employ them anywhere. Even the coaches who didn't play college football that are in the professionals still played 4 years of ball in high school. Whether it's 4 years of ball in high school plus 4 years of ball in college, or whether it's semi-pro, or whether it's the rare person who ends up going pro without any experience. It does. I've seen all sorts of weird paths. It doesn't matter what. If you don't play at least 3 seasons of football, you are not qualified to coach anybody. That's just the reality is. And part of what I hate about the coaching world is that a lot of it's connections too. Like when it comes to the NFL, the CFL, the arena, most of those players are there because they are the best players for that level. But I can't say the same thing about coaches. I have seen coaches who are employed even at major Division One schools just because they have good people skills and they're able to sell recruits to come there, so they're able to get a bunch of talent, win a certain amount of games. But ultimately, they always have a ceiling because the coach can never elevate his game. It's not always about what you know; it's who you know. And so, seeing some of these teams recycle the same old coaches who haven't been able to get it done anywhere they've been is absolutely infuriating to me. I have seen coaches who've been scouts on teams that haven't been 500 in like 10 years bounce around and bounce around Division One, Division Two college football schools without a care in the world, and it makes me absolutely sick to my stomach. These coaches don't know what they're doing, but they still get to hang around because they know somebody and another person doesn't, or because they come across as likable, so recruits fall for their. That's just how it is. Like I said, the best players usually end up where they belong, but I can't say the same thing about coaches. There are probably some coaches in Division Two, Division Three, and NAA football who are better than the coaches you see on TV, but half of them the world will never even know because they might make bad career decisions, or they may not interview well, or they may not know the right people. Uh, that's just the reality is. That's one of the reasons why football is a dying sport too. It's not really the smartest people in charge anymore. You want to know if the truth is that the only reason why some of the football coaches that you see on TV are there are because the smartest people in the world picked other professions to do for a living. That's just the reality is. There are so many bad football coaches out there that are ruining careers, and that makes the recruiting process so much harder. If you pick the wrong one, you are screwed for a full season. It doesn't matter how good you are. I have seen some of the most talented players you've ever seen not get utilized because the coach is a dingus, and it really sucks. There are some players out there who you would not believe that anyone would be able to mess their career up, but they will. So the reality is that a lot of what goes into football is just picking the right people to surround yourself with. So
Yeah, absolutely. And, your off the field decisions impact your game just as much as your on field decisions.
yeah, I've had some mental health issues in the past, but I've never gotten arrested before. I get good grades, and there are other recruits out there who are less talented than me getting more opportunities, even though they're also causing trouble off the field. Some of them are in gangs or whatever. It makes me sick to my stomach what some of these coaches will overlook just because they want to win. And the most egregious part too is that there'll be some coaches at mid level power fours and FBS schools that will these schools never win anything. They hover right around 500, but they will still uh, give a roster spot to the most dastardly person you know just because they're good at football. And ultimately, it's all for nothing in the end. Like Florida overlooked a lot of scumbags because they're good at football, but at least they won a couple national championships. These coaches are glazing the wrong people and getting absolutely nothing from it. You would think that they would have learned by now that you need to have a certain amount of character in the locker room. Just look at Indiana. That they were very talented 3 stars who should have been 4 and 5 stars. They were underlooked, vicious, hungry, but they're people who have heart and character too. And without that, they wouldn't have anything. Some of these coaches like Signetti and like Kirby Smart, uh, they run circles around people with the X's and O's, but very few coaches in the country are able to both outcoach people and also raise great young men. Like Ohio State is one of those programs where they're great at football, but they also have good young men on the team too, and that's just not the standard in most college football programs. The reality is that college football is becoming a toxic environment where scumbags thrive, and it may sound offensive to see that, but most of these players and coaches are not very good people. They lie and to do what they lie to get people to do what they want. They'll backstab people and try and lie about who said what because it gives them an advantage in recruiting or advancing their careers. Um, every fan bases are nasty to each other after games, and will go as far as sending the players death threats and so on. The culture on college football has become very toxic, and ever since the transfer portal and NIL era started, look, it's great that players are getting paid now, but it feels like ever since then everything is just purely transactional now. And finding teams with Indiana that have as much heart as they have talent is it's just rare, and it makes me sad because I don't know if football's ever going to go back to being what it once was across all levels: the NFL, the CFL, the XFL, college football. It's all getting hard to watch.
It's the generation we had before is definitely a dying breed.
They were vicious there who would go out there and they would play 0 to 100 real quick the whole game, just absolutely bloodlusted, trying everything they could to win the game. And nowadays, there's a bunch of prima donnas out there who don't love the game as much as they say they do. A bunch of coaches out there who have no idea what they're doing, and not to mention more and more stupid rules that nobody even knows that are messing with the recruiting process. I mean, it just I know it sounds nihilistic, but it really feels like football is not being run by smart people. That's just the reality is. And if we don't do something significant, coaches like Coach Davis at Ottawa or your coaches that you've liked in the past at Kansas State are going to become a thing of the past. The players of like Bama in the early 2000s or Florida, where they put everything on out on the line on the field, are becoming a thing of the past. Um, Not to mention the amount of referee decisions that are ruining teams, and having a committee that's in charge of which teams make the playoffs and which teams don't, with only a few guidelines. The whole cultural system is just. I hate to say it, but it's absolutely terrible.
It's not what it used to be, that's for sure.
Yeah, it takes a special type person to work in recruiting these days. You people in Kansas do it very well, but the reality is that most people don't. So, ultimately, like with me, the reality is that I have to spend more time talking to coaches than recruiting earlier, like I said. I also have to spam my highlights under an absolutely insane amount of posts because it takes like 10 for coaches to actually notice. That some of these coaches don't even check their DMs or emails. Just getting in contact with coaches is hard. Putting your film out properly is hard. Doing research on some of these smaller schools is hard, and then with the bigger schools, finding a reliable reviews on what types of people the coaches are. Everything about the recruiting process is just it's not really likable these days. It's just college football is more 70% social media recruiting, and it's not. It's no longer straight football and development. And the reality is that if college football is ever going to become what it once was, it's going to need more people like you, me, like Coach Davis at Ottawa, like Jeff Cotton at Central Methodist, like Coach Sally at Culver Stockton, and like some of the coaches you see on TV, like Ryan Day and James Franklin and so on, who really actually make a difference out there and who do it the right way. I only can
Yeah.
only hope that college football returns to the product that it once was. And heck, this year was actually not too bad in terms of on-field quality, but it really feels like there's a little something lacking. And I would like to be part of the change that makes it happen, but for now, I got to focus on playing and finishing my story there. So,
Yeah, absolutely. And one other coach that I will give a huge shout out for the culture that he's building with his team even though they may be our conference rivals here at Ottawa, I will say Coach Harrison at Friends University is building an absolutely wonderful culture. Shout out Cody Stovall, locked on Oklahoma State guy. He's a good friend of mine. He is a Friends alumni, and he speaks so highly of Coach Harrison. And the times I've talked to Coach Harrison, he is one of the best coaches in the nation. And he's down here at NAIA, down here in the KCAC, just like Coach Nick Davis and Coach Anderson that we have here in Ottawa.
Well, Lucas Signetti, he's 65. He just won the Natty. How if they want to work their way up, they'll work that eventually if they become undeniable in all likelihood. But it's for now, it's good that they have a certain amount of coaches out there who are really worth their salt at this level. They work hard and they know the X's and O's, but they also know how to develop players and young men. So it's very impressive that we still see some programs doing it the right way. Uh, but yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. We're never going to see another turnaround like we saw with Bill Snyder back in the 80s. He took a team that couldn't pay players and had no history whatsoever of winning, and he built one of the winningest cultures here at K-State. We will never see a coach like that ever again.
did they win Natty?
No, he did not.
Oh, that's fortunate.
That's sad, but
You're still a
actually
great coach.
1998 we were in the Big 12 championship against Texas A&M, and had we won that game, we were ahead in the fourth quarter. Had we won that game, we would have been in the national championship and more than likely would have won that. But we ended up giving that game away to Texas A&M in the last few minutes of the game, and it was one of those. It was a very, very bittersweet moment because we had never been to heights like that before, but we were that close to making it to the national championship.
Yeah, it always hurts there, but ultimately, a lot of it is out of the coach's hands too. But it's just the hard part about the sport. I got to wrap this up. If you have any other questions for me, you can go ahead and fire away. And
Yeah, you're totally good. Basically, just wanted to get to know you and let coaches get to know you and what kind of a player you are, not only on the field, but off the field in the locker room as a leader as well.
make no mistake about it, I'm one of the best tight ends in all of Western North Carolina, and I really should be at a high D1 school, but ultimately, wherever I go, I'm going to ball out because I have all the talent and, more importantly, the hearts put together. And I'm a man out there who, off the field, I'm not perfect, but I'm ultimately a man who's a force for good in the world, both on and off the field. And it would really be an honor to get as many opportunities as possible to go somewhere that would be a good fit for me for college football. Um, Truly, football has changed my life. I've always loved it, but playing it has been it's been the opportunity of a lifetime. Even though I'm not really too experienced, I've um, I've learned more than enough that I'm ready for this, and I just know that I'm ready to give it my all. So
Yeah,
it was
absolutely. Just
awesome that
work
you.
hard and you will see the results pay off.
Amen. Amen. And ultimately, what matters is who you are after you're done. I could be done playing in a year. I could be done in a couple years. Maybe I have an amazing career and end up being done in like 10 or 15 years. But ultimately, there's going to come a point where everyone has to move on from football. And what matters is just what we got from the experience of playing it and using that to make your life better, whether I end up coaching afterwards or not. But ultimately, if football is something you want to do, I'd recommend every other young man out there go for it. Now or never.
Yeah, and don't play for any other reason than for the love of the game.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Football is the
So
greatest sport on earth, and it's a blessing to be able to play it. And I'm definitely excited to see how it all unfolds. I still got a lot to figure out, and but I'm confident that ultimately the right opportunity will eventually find me because I'm going to keep working hard, and I believe that my luck is going to turn around eventually. I have faith.
like I said, your hard work will pay off. Thank you so much for joining the show. Hopefully, we'll get you on an official visit to Ottawa, and when you get to campus, hit us up, and we'll get you back on.
No doubt about it. You can post this to whatever social media platforms you have and tag me in it, and I'll post it back. So thank you, Tree City Sports, for reaching out to me. I'm Aidan Weston. So long for tonight.
Yep. Take care, bud.
Take care.
That's going to wrap things up for this episode of Storm the Field, the Pipeline, presented by Tree City Sports, your source for local sports. Huge thanks to Aidan Weston for taking the time to share his journey and what he's looking for as he takes the next step in the transfer process. If you're a parent, a coach, a program, or a fan following the next wave of talent, then make sure you're staying locked in because this is where the future impact players get their platform. Be sure to like, subscribe, and follow Storm the Field and Tree City Sports across all social media for more recruiting and transfer coverage in football and then in basketball. I'm your host, CJ McClure, and until next time, y'all take care now.